Good morning. This is the JP Dinnell podcast, episode 62. I am JP Dinnell, and as always, I have my buddy Lucas with me. What's up, buddy?
I'm freaking sore. That's what's up. The bottom of
Yeah?
my feet hurt. It's
I'm feeling good,
unexciting.
man.
Well, good. I'm happy for you.
Yeah. Obviously I'm sore a little bit now, but it's not as much as I thought it was going to be after doing that half marathon to honor those. Sorry. I always mix those two up in my brain, but whatever. Such a cool event that Cody Gandy and Rob Jones created, put together. And it's really cool to see the social media posts of all the people that have done it. And the other cool thing is that registration is still open. Now, by the time this episode comes out, I don't know if it'll still be out
Yeah.
because this is coming out the day after Thanksgiving. But I know as of right now, somebody could still sign up for it and do it within a week or two. My buddy Aaron Archer, he came over yesterday and he trains with us at double five, just got his brown belt. A pursuit brother. He's the one that does the rehab
Yeah.
physical therapy work on all
Yeah.
of
I met
us.
him in Dripping Springs.
Yeah, you met him in Dripping
Yeah.
Springs. Yep. Yeah. And so he came by the house. He's been working on Amanda and kids and some of me for some of my injuries. It's crazy. He's the only one that's been able to like provide like real relief for Amanda's, injuries and like just the pain from surgeries and everything else like that. And it's cool to see her progressing along. But anyways, he was talking about the run and he wants to try to get a couple of his clients signed up for it to kind of rally them, raise some awareness for,
That's cool.
Echelon Front and this to honor them, to honor those run, and just raise some more funds. So anyways, it's just really cool to see people like when they learn more about it, they're like, oh, I want to do that.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's like, for instance, like, you and I was talking to Cody yesterday when I was getting my little recovery run in, while right after him and Rob got done running the marathon. And, just because we knew it was a good event, you and I wanted to challenge ourselves. We could have done a
Yep.
5K. We could,
I
5K
would
would
have
have been a
loved
joke,
that.
honestly, if you really think about it, for compared to what we did.
Right.
I'm not saying the 5K is bad for anybody that did the 5K, but for me, where I was wanting to go mentally to push myself, the 5K wasn't there.
Yeah.
And I think you were, on the tail end of 75 hard as well. You were desiring that, just, oh, let's push ourselves, let's continue to do hard things. And instead of doing the 10K, you went straight to like, hey, do you think if we could train we could do a half marathon? And I'm like, yep. And Cody
Yeah.
and I were talking, he's like, bro, when you responded to the half marathon, he's like, I was a little shocked because he goes, I know you. And I'm like, what? The fact that I don't run and I don't run ever.
Yeah.
Uh, and I just thought it was cool. And, which I know we'll get into and talk about it.
Yeah,
But,
man.
I was a little bummed, because originally I thought like all of us were going to try to like run it together. But then, you, of course, with your pastoral duties of, having to be awesome and do stuff on the weekends also, you decided to go out there and knock out your run. Originally, you're going to be out there at what, 5 a.m.?
Yeah. Yeah. So originally I was going to be out there at 5 a.m., but what ended up happening was I got to bed at around 5 a.m.
Oh,
Our 2 year old, yeah, he is. I guess when his schedule is off just a little bit, then he always wakes up in the middle of the night. And
hmm.
we took up. You know how a lot of those baby beds they have like the little barrier thing to where
Yep.
like once they're in the toddler bed they can't roll out of it. We decided last week we were going to take that off, and so I got in bed a little late. It was like 11 o'clock, and I was like, all right, if I'm in bed from 11 to 5, like that's 6 hours. That's more than I normally get. I'm normally like 5 hours of sleep a night, so that'll be perfect. 2 a.m. he rolls out of the bed, and Dad's got to go in there, and then it took him about an hour to fall asleep. And so 5 a.m. I came back to my bed, and I was like, look, I'm gonna get at least a half hour of decent sleep, and then go. And so yeah, I ended up at the park that I was gonna run at 6, and man, it was a lot colder than what I had anticipated. It was like 37, 38 degrees.
Oh,
Um,
bro. It
it
was
was chilly, right? So I was geared up for a cold run, and the reason that I picked the park that I did is because there's a bridge that's dedicated. I've got all the details here to Private First Class Aaron Hudson, who lost his life from an IED over in Iraq in 2005, and the city of Highland Village and his folks put together this beautiful memorial. And so my first 2/3 of a mile took me a half hour. And the reason was like one, it was cold, so I made sure that like I was intentional about walking and warming up because like you, I don't run, but also, I just wanted to take the time to think about it and what we were doing, why we were doing it. And so on this bridge, he was posthumously awarded a Bronze Star and a Purple Heart. And if you go down the bridge, not only does it, tell his story, but it's got all the letters that he wrote home. And so in the short amount of time before he lost his life, he wrote letters home to friends and to family, to his parents, and all of those letters are on this bridge and marked there. And so I took deliberately that first little bit to really get my mind wrapped around like what we were doing, why we were doing it. So yeah, it took a half hour to get to that bridge to read all of those letters and to really start the run, but it put me in the right mindset to be able to do it, especially because I was out there. It was cold. It was dark. I'm the only person on there, and knowing that, at least for the first 10 miles or so that I'm going to be doing this alone, and just to kind of get my head wrapped around what all of that was going to be, and then in the right frame of mind to push through and to do it. And I think that that's nearly an impossible thing to do. I say this, let me flip that. It's nearly impossible not to push through those walls and to do those things whenever you realize what all was given, so that, I can run at 6 a.m. without fear of,
Yeah.
yeah. And just, for me, it helped me set the tone for what I was going to do for the rest of the morning. And it was just a really great way to get into the proper headspace. So it was
Awesome,
good.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before, you dive into like deeper like segments of your run, because that's what I
Sure.
kind of want to hear. Like, okay, what was like the first, 3 mile when you hit that 5K, you're like, all right,
Yeah.
cool. And then all of a sudden you're like, you know, 6 miles, like, oh, okay, 7, 8 miles, like, same thought process that I had was just, we had a group of people doing it, and it was also Brad Kavanaugh's birthday.
Yeah.
And so for me, I just like I knew that. I woke, I saw it the day before in my calendar. I also know that it's his birthday in my brain. And then just, the night before we had I mean, not a late night like yours, but we had a very unique late evening as well at our
Yeah.
household. So not a lot of sleep. And just some spiritual warfare things going on. And, it's cool that, as parents, we can go to war on behalf of our children
Absolutely,
and
man.
work through stuff and, remove stuff from your house when somehow those things creep in. But, um, uh, so I was smoked,
Yeah.
like that morning, and not at your level, not even close. But it was just funny. Like I kind of had the same feelings where I was like, just kind of just dragging. And then you're like, you know what, this is awesome. We're doing this, I had a group of people meeting us out there at the park. And it was cool to kick it off. And it's crazy because Josh originally was supposed to be doing it with us, but his family was there and he's like, hey, I'm gonna be a little bit later. So we were trying to wait for him a little bit because he had something going on in his house, so you had to wait for a technician there. And then all of a sudden it's like, all right, hey, it's gonna be later. We're like, all right, we're just gonna kick this off. And so Dane, Titus, Aiden, and I take off jogging. And, my wife, Cora Nola, her parents are going to be walking the 5K. Dane's wife is going to be walking 5K with their kids on their bikes. And then Jen Strasburger is going to be walking the 5K with their 3 kids as well.
Yeah.
And so we take off jogging. And by the way, Titus, who's you met at Jesus in Jiu-Jitsu, one of our milestone youth pastors, I sent him the text Thursday and he signed up for it Friday. No trainer I just told him, I was like, by the way, there's still time you can sign up. And the response I get is send me the link. And I'm like, no
That's
way.
awesome, man.
And so he did it. But so we take off jogging, bro. and like kind of setting a decent pace. And I'm like, all right, I'm hearing the and I'm like, I look back, it is Jake, Josh's son.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I was like, bro, are you gonna like run the 5K with us or just like keep up as much as you can? He's like, I'm gonna do as much as I can. I was like, oh, okay. And I'm thinking like do as much as you can with us up to the 5K. Dude, he's wearing Hey Dude slippers. Like he's not wearing running shoes. And he's got a hoodie on. And by the time we started, it was cold when we all headed there.
Mm-hmm.
It was weird. Within like 30 minutes, it went up in temp
Yep.
to where I was like, oh, I'm stripping layers before we get this started. And it was funny. Aiden had like the thick uh origin beanie on,
Mm-hmm.
with a thick sweatshirt, and so did Jake. And so, anyways, we take off. Bro, like now he fell a little bit behind and Aiden like stayed back with them, because they're bros and they're running together, but he kept up for almost 3 miles.
Good grief. In Hey
Yeah.
Dudes.
And hey dudes. And with a shoulder sling bag on as well, holding his stuff in there. We went by the vehicle one time just to grab like a little drink or whatever because we had stuff staged. And it was funny because I was like, no, I'm not stopping once. And so my whole thing was like, all right, reach in the truck, grab my stuff, and like keep moving. And if
Yeah.
I was gonna like sip or eat, I was like still like jogging or walking. But yeah, they ended up doing together before they ended up having to leave because Jen had to leave with the kids 9 miles.
Good grief.
Jake and Aiden did 9 miles, and then Aiden finished the other three on his. I mean, sorry, the other four on his own.
Wow.
And I mean, we'd all kind of see each other and we'd pace each other and do stuff, and it was just crazy. And so, like, seeing Jake and Aiden like just putting out together and Aiden really pushing Jake and Jake just digging deep. And I mean, bro, he didn't train for it at all. He
Yeah.
doesn't ever run. He's wearing Hey Dude slippers and he's out there like just doing what he can. And same with that. Aiden ran twice preparing for this,
Yeah.
2 miles each time, which I kind of got onto him. But at the same time, I'm like, bro, you're an 18-year-old stud. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
You'll figure it
you,
out.
you can do that. Now he's been sore, dude. Today he
Good.
went for a 5. He knocked out a 5K
Nice.
uh, on his own, which I was like, okay, my man. But I don't know, man. Just kicking it off, like just being with the group, and then, like you said, just thinking about like what really mattered, and the reason behind this run that Rob and Cody put together was it was really. I didn't listen to music once. Now I had my headphones on for like if I had to call Amanda or the kids, or I'd send a few video messages, but I just freaking no music the whole time. Kids from Origin and Jocko Fuel team, they were knocking it out as well, and we're all kind
Mm-hmm.
of giving each other text messages and updates. And I mean, those guys were like studs. Like Keegan Roberts, Peter and Amanda Roberts' son,
Yeah.
maintained an 8 minute and 9 second pace
For how long?
the whole half marathon.
Good grief.
Yeah, Ian was at a 9:11 pace. Ty was like an 11 something pace. Uh, Jordan Merritt out on an oil rig on the
Mm-hmm.
helicopter deck, did it and maintained like a 9 something pace.
That's
And
impressive.
then one of the other dudes from the media team, he knocked it out and he maintained like a 7 something pace.
Good grief. Yeah. Noah, I think, maintained like
And Noah ran a 50
13:30.
mile run.
Yeah. And for 44 miles, he maintained 13:39, which is impressive, dude.
It just unreal.
Yeah.
Unreal. And then Cody and Rob, Cody running with body armor, Rob double, amputee. I mean, it's just crazy. But all right, so walk me through like the first, or some of the increments of the run for you.
Yeah. So the first thing was obviously like it's cold. And so I'm geared up for cold. I start to get warm and I'm doing the same thing. So I stop at the truck. When I looked back at my Garmin to like look at how I had tracked, I had 24 minutes of idle time. They were part because my overall time was 4 hours and 6 minutes, but I had 24 minutes. So my first point like 6-8 miles is 30 minutes, because I'm
Yeah.
getting to the bridge, I'm on the bridge and all that. And then I had 24 minutes of idle time. So my first couple of miles felt good, started to get really warm, shed some layers. the sun starts to come up, the temperature drops, and there's like a 6-mile-an-hour wind coming off the lake. So I get back around to the truck, and layers are coming back on because I'm freezing. And I'm texting Rob and Cody, we were all in that group message, and Rob mentioned something. He was like, hey, make sure that you cover your face up because those cold runs, it's going to hurt. When that wind came in, I was getting wind burn on my face. And so I didn't have like a gaiter or anything to cover my face up. I had my gym towel, my get after it gym towel. And so I put my hood up and like just stuffed that in there. So as people are, the sun's coming up, people are showing up to do their like morning walks on Saturday with their dogs. Then they're seeing just this absolute goon with his, his hoodie on and this towel stuffed in front of his face. And I'm wearing my big, my 3-liter hydration pack because I really didn't want to stop. Well, then after a little bit, kind of like what you were talking about, a couple of hours later, man, it's hot. And so I'm back over there shedding layers again, trying to get it all off. The first few miles, I was just really deliberate about making sure that I was warm. I've had some knee stuff coming into this. Hips had been a little iffy, like just because I haven't run. We talked about this, man. I haven't run since high school. And going from powerlifting and all of those kind of things to running, like heavy squats to a bicycle, it actually feels really nice. Heavy squats to a run does not. And that's, I've been having some just like tightness in the IT bands and stuff like that. So I was just being really deliberate about warming up and kind of doing a run walk thing. And I found this app, and you may laugh at me for this, but I found this app, I don't know, a month ago maybe, called ZRX, and it's a zombie run app. So the deal is that it's essentially like a running coach, but it puts you into a story. And so you can do zombies. The Marvel's got a thing, and so that's the one I did. So I'm like in the middle of this X-Men audiobook. And so like there are parts of it where, they start this story and like as they're talking is when you're supposed to do like the lighter parts of your run. And then when they stop, music kicks in, whatever music. And I just had some cadence music on to help me with my, make sure my footfalls are in the right place. And then, you do that for however long and then they come back on. And then there are some things where it like wants you to pick up the pace so that you're increasing like 10% or 20% of your output or whatever. So I did that. And it helped. The first, 4 miles, which was the farthest that I had run prior to this, were good. They were slow, but I felt good. Body felt loose. Finally got everything like layers and stuff to where they needed to be. So I was running with a pair of just like those mechanics gloves, and then a light beanie. My discipline equals freedom. Rash guard with the to honor those shirt over the top of it, and then whatever shorts, and then like some Under Armour thermals that are made for running that have like the side so that it vents.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So that was kind of the gear up. When I hit mile number 4, I started to actually feel really good, and my best mile was mile 7. So and we'll talk about this when we get towards the end of the run. Kirsten and the boys show up at mile 10, and then I finished the 5K with them. Like that was a really important thing for us, was to kind of walk jog that last 3 miles together. So here it is. My mile 7 time, best mile of the day, 7 minutes and 11 seconds.
That's awesome.
I wasn't intentionally picking up the pace. That was when like 5, 6, 7.
That was your time for that whole mile?
Yeah, for that whole mile was 7:11 at mile 7. So, but that like mile 5, 6, 7, 8, I felt really, really good. Mile 9, my time at mile 9. So my time at mile 8 is like 12 minutes. Like 12 minutes, 15 seconds, something like that. My time at mile 9 was a 16-minute mile for me. Like mile 9 is where I slammed into the wall. And that's when I remember my feet hurting for the first time. And that was not something that I had anticipated at all. And this is now, we're a few days removed from it. still. Like when I went and saw my physical therapist just to like check on my physical therapist and chiropractor to like check on my hips and all that stuff and make sure that everything still looks good. My hips feel better after doing this run than they felt in years. My
Yeah.
feet, like as soon as they touch the ground or my shoe, like there's pain and it looks like it doesn't look like there are any stress fractures or anything. He's like, bro, you just beat your feet up for the first time in your life. It
Yeah.
was, I think,
Yeah.
25,000 steps in 4 hours, which is
Yeah.
just insane. So,
Yeah. It's going to do that for sure. It's crazy,
yeah,
just like the difference of like, just for you not going from any running to doing that. And there's a lot of people that did that on this run. Like they're like, all right, I'm gonna challenge myself. A lot of guys, that were like, cool, I'm gonna do a 5K with my family, and they decided to ruck, right? And so instead of just walking with their family, they put a ruck on. And
yeah,
there's a few people I saw their times on the ruck, and I'm like, they maintained a 12 something pace for a 5K ruck.
that's
That's
stellar.
hard, bro.
Yeah, man.
You're that's a run. You're
Yeah.
running with the ruck. And so there's some like just legit people like getting really out of their comfort zone. Yeah, I hit the wall right around the 8, 9 minute, I'm sorry, 8 to 9 mile mark as well.
Yeah.
And I know there's a few times, I think it was right around, no, it was like 7. Yeah, it was 7 miles is when I finally told Titus and Dane, I'm like, hey, you guys keep going. I'm gonna cut over here. I'm gonna kind of walk until I meet you up with you guys, and then I'll start jogging. And so I turned around because there's like little cut throughs that you could do. And then like so I turn around, I start walking, and I take like 5 steps walking, and I got mad at myself. I'm like, why are you walking? You don't need to walk. You can bud shuffle, right? So I started like slow jog, jog walk
Hmm.
hybrid, I guess, and so I wasn't walking. And that's when I kind of really started to process like, okay, cool, this is where I'm at, this is how much longer I got. This is no factor. Yep, this, sucks. And then I think about like what my dad endures every day with the pain from his amputation
Yeah.
and the stuff with his leg, the sepsis, and my buddy Dan Licardo, who lost both of his legs in a car accident because he had a seizure while driving and hit a tree head on.
Good grief.
Um, Shout out to Flower Mound Fire and all the surrounding agencies that responded to him. And that's the only reason why he's still alive.
Oh, man.
I can't wait to have him on the podcast to share his story. But, I think about him, of all the years of just, and then obviously Rob Jones and, everything he endured and went through. But, and that's when it was cool because I enjoyed like, all right, this sucks. But I also knew there was so many other people out there that were doing it. And I really started to enjoy it. Because when you really think about it, it's like, what's the big deal? We're running, jogging, big deal. My thing is like, especially with all the health stuff I've had, I just wanted to complete it without stopping. Like that was my
Yeah.
goal. Like, don't have to stop. And so I linked back up with those guys, and then mile 9 hit, and I was just like, all right, there's a legit wall. Well, but it's cool, just getting text messages from buddies that weren't doing the race that knew I was doing it, that were just like, hey man, remember you get to do this. It's going to be awesome. Like good, my buddies from you know, my buddy Christian, Dave Matthews, and Craig all text me separate. They all reach out to me separately via text. All my old black belt buddies from my old jiu-jitsu gym were just like reaching out to me, and which I thought was cool. And then just the other group text. So I mean, at the end of the day, it's like big deal. We ran a half marathon. People do them all the time. It wasn't that was a big deal. The thing I recognized more was like exposing some weaknesses and being like, all right, cool. Like I'm gonna keep working on these things. Okay, I don't like it. Good. I'm
Yeah, I can fix it.
gonna keep going. I'm actually gonna keep going because the big picture, when you look at it, it's a run. Now you might, end up with some stress fractures or something else like that, but it's only a half marathon. And it was more of like a mental thing. And that's what I really enjoyed was like, all right, cool. We're going to, I haven't run this far for a very long time. And I remember like talking with Titus and Dane, and I was like, we're in the run. I'm like, man, when we hit 6 miles, that'll be the longest I've ran since 2010.
Yeah.
And before that, the longest I ran was in 2002. twice, once in SQT and once in Budsman, did 13.1 miles. And so I was like, all right, cool. And so once you pass that 6 miles, like, cool, uncharted territory, except for 22 years ago, which
Right.
is crazy. You think about it with no training. I was laughing because Dane was like, how many miles have you were talking about how many miles we put in for this? And I was like, I don't even think I put 20 miles total preparing for this
Right.
just from, just limited, you know, actual miles that I put in because other priorities and trying to let my body rest and recover. So I really enjoyed it. And then that's why yesterday for me it was very important that I went out and did those miles because I didn't want to. And I knew for me what I needed to go do was like, all right, cool, this is not just a one and done get uncomfortable thing. Like you need to start doing these things more consistently. And I think just that message alone for our listeners is something that they all need to think about, whether it's something physical or mental. Like, I don't think we push ourselves as hard as we should be. I know I don't. And I'm not going to speak for anybody else, but I don't push myself physically and mentally as hard as I should based off the capabilities that I have that God has given me. And so that's why, you know, Sunday I was like, all right, cool. I'm gonna, go for a jog. I actually originally was like, cool, I'm gonna just like walk a mile, just kind of get some blood flow. And then as soon as you're out there and you're just like, all right, I'm gonna jog, right? And so then it turned from 1 mile jog to I'm gonna do one and a half, and then it turned into two. And I remember when I took the picture and sent it to you guys. It was it was funny because my watch was like do not do anything today,
Yeah.
like, and it was like cool. And then all of a sudden it's like I was at 1.97 because I was like I'll just do two, and then I can walk back, and I can walk back from here. It'll be good. And I was like, no, I'm just going to do 3.1. I'll do another 5K. I'll knock it out. And then I estimated actually pretty spot on to where wherever I turned around, wherever the ending of that run, the 3.1 was going to be the 5K. I stopped it. I kind of took, I was like moving around a little bit, like catching my breath, looked at all the stats, then restarted it and walked half a mile back,
Nice.
and so at that point I was half a mile away, but it was good to do that because then it was cool because my neighbor Jared Moon, who he has a podcast. Uh, I know I've been talking about getting him on ours. Him and I have been texting about it. He um uh man, I'm drawing a blank. Gym athlete garage athlete is his podcast or his Instagram page. Anyways, Jared Moon, he's a stud. He does a lot of programming. And it's funny, anytime I've mentioned him, people are like, oh, I know who he is. Like, well, my buddy Seth Kern, and then Cody knew who he was as well. And but I was doing my run, and all of a sudden I hear some footsteps coming up behind me, and it was him and his son like going out for a run, and they passed me, and I was like, oh man, I'm struggling trying to get a little recovery run in for that half marathon. He's like, dude, I saw you did that yesterday. And so we were just talking, and so I thought it was really cool. Like him and his son went out for a run together, and his son kept with him until the half mile mark, and then he turned around and went back. So his son did a mile in pretty decent pace, and then he ended up doing like three and a half miles. But as I was on the turnaround, he then passes me again. I mean, he was keeping a legit quick pace, like low eights, I think, on after his son left.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
and anyways, he was like, hey man, he's like, if you want to swing by the house, he's like, I got the cold plunge if you want to reduce some of that, lactic acid and just, knock it out. And I was like, all right. So because I had Aaron Archer coming over with Archer Performance to work on
Yeah.
Amanda and I. And so being able to like get done with that movement where I was really warm, I put on some Under Armour base layer pants to keep my legs really warm for that run, and they're pretty tight compression, and then did 5 minutes in the cold plunge, and then moved around, showered, and then Aaron worked on me. And it's like last night and today I felt awesome. So it was pretty cool. So yeah, he's the garage gym athlete is his
It's
other
Jared's
Instagram.
podcast. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, man,
But
it's
shout out to him for letting me hit that cold plunge, man.
no joke. Yeah,
What's up?
it's been a weird like the preparation for this, kind of wrapping my head around it, the idea of doing it, because it's not something that if it wasn't for our show that I would have ever done. And I had a negative amount of interest in it even
Yeah,
whenever we
bro.
decided to do it. I was like,
Every
this is so
time
stupid.
running came up, you would like, and I was like, all right, he is going to do a run with me one day.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But now, I don't know. I don't know that I have a ton of interest in doing a marathon or another half at some point. Like now, at least I know that I can, right? So it's
Yeah,
not like it's not the sort of big daunting thing that it felt like it was before. But I do have some goals now as far as like one, like you, I want to keep this up. I want to keep going.
yep.
I was really surprised at how good I felt afterwards, and that was one of the things I was talking to my doc about this morning when I went to go see him. Is he was like, yeah, so how bad are your hips? And I was like, actually, they feel great. Then he went to go work out. And he's like, man, this is the loosest that they've been. And he's been working with me since 2019. And so he's like, dude, this is the best your hips have felt like, in the last 5 years, like
That's
since we've been
awesome.
working together. I was like, yeah, I have no clue what it was about the length of that run. And when I was talking to David, David had this same experience. Is that at the end of the run, he actually like feels better, and like I said, the only thing that's really sore is my feet, and some of that is just working on running form through the thing. A lot of it comes down to fatigue and
Yeah,
knowing the watch and the heart rate monitor are able to tell so many things about how well you're actually performing, as far as like how much your body's traveling and what's your vertical oscillation and your stride length and yada yada, which are it's too much information, but they're good things to just be able to look at. But I am motivated now that like, so I got a goal. I want to be able to nail a 5K and see if I can do it in 21 minutes. Like that's my 2025 goal,
hmm,
right? Like just
that's
see,
fast.
yeah, like
21, you said?
yeah, like can I hit a 7 minute 11 second mile, right, like almost right in the middle, the apex of the run. That seventh mile is when I hit my 7 minute 11 second mile. Is it possible for me, this coming year, can I get a 5K in under 25 minutes? Can I do it? Can I hit that mark, that 7 minutes? Can I do that for 3 miles straight? Can I do a 5K in under 22 minutes or like add that 21-minute time? And that to me now is interesting. Whereas running is something that I'm had zero interest in before, that now it actually not just like do I see the fitness aspects of it, and I wouldn't say that I necessarily enjoy it, but I do see the value in it, and the desire to do it and to have a goal associated with it now is definitely something that is in my mind, which has not been the case for the last, I'm 39, so probably like 37 years. Because what I'm
Yeah,
learning from my 2-year-old is they just want to run all the time. And I think that was probably the last time that I wanted to run was when I was his age. So
that's awesome.
it's been crazy, man.
That's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a good goal, man. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what 2025 goals I have in mind. Cody and I talked about a few different things, so we'll see. I
Oh,
don't,
dude.
not sure yet. Um, but yeah, I just think it's cool. And Josh is doing his run right now.
Yeah.
He was, he was going to do it Saturday night. And then I was like, bro, just do it tomorrow or Monday. He's like, nope, I committed Saturday. I'm like, nobody's going to care if you do it Saturday or Sunday or Monday or sometime next week when it makes more sense. And he's like, well, made the commitment. And I'm like, who's going to say anything? We're kind of joking, going back and forth. And then um, he decided to push it to Monday because Jake wanted to run another 4 miles so that he could get his 13 total in.
Yeah.
And then Jarrett wanted to run actually run, jog
Yeah, his
the
kids.
5K portion with him. And Emily said she was going to ride her bike or rollerblade a certain amount as well.
That's
So
pretty cool.
he's doing it. He's doing it right now, man. My buddy Brandon Wisdom. Uh, I felt bad, man. He texted me Sunday. He's like, did you do the marathon yesterday? He goes, I thought it was today, and I was like, he goes, I was going to do it with y'all, and I was like,
Oh,
because when I told him about it, he was like, "Yep, I'm in, I'm down." And what I failed to do is I didn't create a list of people that said they were going to do it, and just to confirm, like, hey, are we doing it together or what's going on? Because he would have come out and done it Saturday, and he probably would have brought his family, and there would have been more people doing it, with the wives and kids. And so I felt horrible. So I connected him with Josh, and I don't know if they did it together or not, or if they started it, but I know they were talking about it. So we'll
that's pretty
see.
cool. Yeah, it is one of those things, man. That today we were talking a lot about like work life balance. I think that was actually the topic on the EO Academy,
Yeah,
and these are the kinds of things that really test that. Whenever you're training for something or you've got
yeah,
a goal and stuff that you're focused on, for me the big thing about it that it helped me prove is like the mental toughness aspect of it, because
yeah.
running alone in the dark, in the cold, of like, nope, I'm gonna do this. I've committed to doing it, and I'm gonna make it happen regardless of what it is. So there's that mental aspect of it, but there's a lot of stuff in the preparation that I think teach lessons that people need to know about maintaining balance in their life. Like if I know, like what we did on Saturday, I have to run 13 miles, right? What are the things that I'm doing in order to prepare myself for that? What are
Mm.
the other sacrifices and things that I'm making? Because we all have things that are, for lack of a better way to put it, at periods of our life that are just going to be hanging over our heads. And I felt honestly, this was one of those things for me. Like I was not looking forward to this at all. It ended up being a good experience for me, but it was one of those things where I was like, with it was hanging over my head that like we have to do this. I've just got to find a way to get through it. If I make it through Saturday, then I can die a happy man or like whatever, whatever it was, right? So we all have those kind of things, and that there are a lot of things that we can do in preparation to keep them from becoming maybe the nightmare that we think that they're going to be. When we look at stuff as far as like our work life balance or our balance in life at all, we do the balance assessment at the muster. You do it at all of the 1 day workshops that you do. The balance assessment is such an important thing, but figuring out balance in our life when it comes to our goals, or really in this case when it comes to facing tough things, like how do you guys teach that? How do you teach somebody how to balance out facing something that is like that task or that day, that one thing that's just like hanging over their head? They feel like it's looming over them. How do you teach them to balance their life in the weeks, the days leading up to that, so that not only is that mountain surmountable, but also that they're not making themselves and everyone else around them that they're leading miserable as they're approaching, whatever that task may be.
Yeah. So, first thing is you have to make a commitment. When you make a commitment to yourself, it becomes real and it changes the way you think about things. Second, don't take yourself so serious. And I'll elaborate on that, meaning whatever it is that you're committing to, most likely isn't really that big of a life-changing thing. Now, there are people that are making those types of commitments for sure, but we committed to a half marathon. And that's why I was saying it earlier. And I wasn't trying to diminish what we did or what you did
Sure.
or what anybody else did. But in the grand scheme of things, that's really not that big of a deal. Now, were you able to pull some life lessons from it? Were you able to,
Yeah.
you know, find a way to push yourself and push through a wall and, and suffer in silence? Yeah, those are great things. Those are things that we should be actively seeking out. That's what I liked about it. And it's like, and that's why I did what I did on Sunday. Yesterday was cool. Everyone's saying I should rest and do nothing. I'm going to go do this because I know I need to.
Yeah.
And so, one, you again, you make the commitment to yourself. It changes the way we think about things. It changes the way you you address the things that come up into your life. And so if you make a commitment, are you going to quit on yourself?
You
Because
hope
that
not.
becomes a habit.
Yeah.
And if the answer is no, I'm not going to quit, then that guides the decisions that you make. When, it's very similar to what Cody said. Hey, I have a run programmed in my daily workout. It's a non-negotiable. I don't get to mix it out with something else and be like, all right, I'm going to do, instead of going for this run, I'm going to do 25 minutes of stretching. No, it's that's not what you get to do. And so you make the commitment, you decide, hey, you know what? I don't want to create a habit of quitting on myself because then it becomes a real thing in your life. And then you'll do the hard things. You'll do the things you're supposed to, and you won't do the things that you're not supposed to. I've talked about this at workshops, on one of the whiteboards that I used to have in my office. I'm getting new whiteboards put up in my office, so I'll put it back up there. But it had these five things, like they're my core values, I guess you'd say, like kind of help me figure out what I'm going to be doing and not doing in life. And the first one is be a good Christian. The second one is be a good husband. The third one is be a good father. The fourth one is be a good member of Echelon Front. And the fifth one is be a good friend. So those are my top five focuses. Therefore, my decisions are based off of those five things.
Yeah.
Does it does it help me fulfill those things, or does it hinder me from accomplishing those things? And if it doesn't help me fulfill those things and or it hinders me, then I don't do that thing. I try not to, right? And I make mistakes. And so it helps me, when there's temptations to, do something I shouldn't be doing, or there's temptations to be lazy and not do what I'm supposed to be doing. There's that those things, are lingering there. And, part of all of those, as I've thought about it more and more since that backpacking trip with Chris, Ty, I'm sorry, T, not Tyron.
Yeah.
So Chris, Tyron, and Mike, um, in my brain, I was trying to shorten it to T, but I'd already said Ty, and I was like, T, Tyron. Um,
T iron.
and then, yeah, and then prepping for this run was, a major foundation in all those things is actually me being physically active and healthy,
Yeah.
and taking care of my body and taking care of my health. Because one, if I'm not taking care of my body, not taking care of my health, then that's I'm not doing, like, I'm not honoring God. I'm not with my health where I should be. And if I'm not healthy and I'm not feeling good, then that will affect how I act as a husband, because I'm gonna not be optimal. I'm not gonna be happy. And same thing as a father, and as a member of Echelon Front. Like, I have to represent Echelon Front properly, and there's standards that come with being on this team, and I need to maintain those standards. And part of that is, me having these things together, with my health and my physical abilities. Um, Now maybe I take that one a little more personal for myself, higher than I should, but I'm always going to do that. That's never going to change. And then being a good friend, like, my big thing is pushing people to do hard things and to enjoy life and to challenge themselves and train jiu-jitsu and do other stuff. Well, if I'm out of shape, I can't do those things properly. I'm not a good training partner. I'm not able to do these things. So for me, getting these things back in order and on track is important, and that's what's, once you do those things, the next thing in that, step, I would say, is, you have to hold yourself accountable and find people that will help you hold yourself accountable. That's the big thing that I've done with First in Nutrition. Having, you know, the program from First in Nutrition, and having, Jonathan as my coach, and knowing that I'm accountable to Jonathan and Ann for my daily actions. Like, I'm in Port of Spain, Trinidad right now. And I was traveling all day today, and not the best of food, and I've done a good amount of uh I'm sorry, not the best food, and I've had a good amount of opportunities to eat food that I shouldn't have on travel today. Especially on my layover in Miami when they have like those amazing empanada stands
Oh
everywhere
yeah.
in the airport and it
Hmm.
smells unreal. Um, you know, for me, knowing that I'm gonna have to track all those things and those are gonna affect my macros for the day, which affects my goals. And I'm not gonna lie about it because I made the commitment to myself and the commitment to Jonathan and Ann and First in Nutrition. And and also I made the commitment to my friends, my kids, and my wife by and Echelon Front from what I'm doing with First in Nutrition. So I'm like, all right, well, eating junk food is non-negotiable. And if I do, here's the thing, I can go get an empanada, but that's wasted calories because then it throws off everything else. And so I, you know, just decided not to eat a lot on travel today because the options, which was not a big deal. And then, I just went and had an awesome dinner and I could have gotten a bunch of other awesome fried food and probably some other food, but I chose to get a baked half chicken with rice, plantains, and black beans. And it was awesome. It was freaking so good, bro. And it was fulfilling. And I feel
Yeah.
good and I don't feel like crap. And so, you know, I think the accountability piece is what a lot of people miss is finding a way to kind of paint yourself into the corner to where you're holding yourself accountable because of the commitments that you made, not to yourself, but to the people around you.
So with this whole aspect, one of the things that I really picked up on and what you're saying is like how the importance of doing hard things prepares us for voluntarily doing hard things, prepares us for these kind of situations where like maybe there is something that is actually difficult that's up on the horizon. Not to
Yes.
diminish anybody's
Yep.
like
Yep.
actual accomplishments, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
if you ran the marathon or a half marathon or whatever and you hit a PR or a PB, however you want to put it, like those are wonderful things, but like there will be things in your life where stuff legitimately goes wrong that
Mhm.
and maybe you don't have any control over it. Right?
Yeah.
Like Rob talks a lot about like controlling your attitude,
Yeah.
because that's
Yep.
what you can own. Own your attitude whenever stuff goes
Yep.
wrong.
And
And what you're talking about, like doing these things voluntarily,
conditions you
yeah, to be able to handle that, right?
to handle hardship and to switch it into overdrive. I mean, that's what my dad's been able to do with all of his stuff. He has always sought out hard work his whole life. He's sought that out. He's enjoyed it. And obviously that's where I get it from is like knowing like, oh, you don't think we could do this? Or oh, you think that's hard? Cool. I'm gonna go a little bit longer. I'm
Yeah.
gonna I'm gonna make it harder to show you that it's actually not that bad if you change your mindset and your attitude. You know, um, Rob's talk of the muster is phenomenal
Yeah.
about owning your
Owning your
attitude.
attitude.
And that's something we've been talking about for a very long time at Echelon Front, which is no surprise that, you know, he's talking about at the muster. We all have our own versions of it because that's a very common thing for people in the military is being able to control your attitude to push through hardship. But that's not just a military thing. You look at, the single mom that's out there raising her kids and, working two jobs and then trying to go to school so she can get a degree to get a promotion. And I mean, you talk about doing hard things. Like there are people that are doing really hard things continuously,
Yeah.
you know. And people just want the microwave option. They want the easy option. Like, I just want to be done now.
Yep.
And that's just not the reality in life. And I think when you seek out those hard, difficult things, it becomes a part of who you are. And you're like, all right, cool, no factor. I actually have been here before. I like it. I enjoy it. This is what I'm going to apply it to.
And that's an interesting like I think an interesting aspect of what there's a guy, my twin Echo co-hosts a podcast with this guy, and that guy says discipline equals freedom all the time.
Yeah.
And I think that there's an aspect of that discipline equals freedom that we don't think about when it comes to this particular type of thing. is that the discipline that it takes in order to train for something like this, the discipline that it takes in order to do whether a 5K is a strain for you, or a 10K, or a half marathon, or a marathon, like whatever that challenge point is, like
Yes.
training and doing something for a challenging thing, and then figuring out, because there is a balance that has to go along with it, right? Like I can't just, because as impactful as the To Honor Those run is, and the amount of reach that it's going to have for America's Mighty Warriors and some other veterans charities that are being supported, and the people that are going to be able to go to these leadership workshops because of what the community has done as far as like being part of it, going on the runs, those kinds of things. As impactful as those things are, I am not going to see immediate impact from any of those things, because they're going to support other people. What I will see is the immediate impact of, did I make a decision to run a 5K for tonight, and just tell my wife like, hey, nope, I gotta get this 5K training in, so you're gonna have to just do whatever with the kids, because this is what's important to me. Like, you've got to plan and figure out balance. You've got to get alignment with the people that are in your home, and the people that you're working with whenever you're preparing for these kinds of things. And then you actually have to do the hard thing. And I think that those are the aspects of setting a goal that is a big challenge that people take for granted, of how much that transfers over into what we might consider like real life, or the workplace, or whatever.
So, I think about like what my dad did when we were growing up. Lifting was a big thing for him. He was big into lifting, bodybuilding. He worked construction and or cooking, and did a combo of both of those at times to provide for our family. Um, Very rarely was he lifting at night at home, because when he was at home, it was family time, and or he was cooking dinner with my mom, or teaching us how to cook food, or at our soccer games, at our basketball games, at swim team practice. We were doing things together as a family. Now, sometimes we were at the gym that he was training at and my mom was training at, because they were training clients to make extra money.
Yeah.
And that's fine, because we're doing swim team, they're doing their thing. We're playing with our friends, they're working. And then maybe he gets a workout in with his buddies, because we're working out with our friends, are training. But when my dad got the most of his workouts done? At
Early in the
4 in the morning,
morning. Yep.
when nobody else is awake in the house, because that was a priority to him. So I will tack on to what you said. When you get alignment with your significant other, or whatever situation you have, remember, these are your goals. You're going to be the one that makes the sacrifices. You can't expect the people around you to make all the sacrifices. Now, there will be some sacrifices on their end. And if they're not willing to, you got a whole other thing in front of you that you need to handle before you start like trying to tackle on other stuff, because you're way out of alignment with your
Yeah.
significant other. And, Amanda and I, for the most part, have done a good job maintaining that alignment. There's times I was way out of line with my alignment, and, putting the strain on her, when I was training for MMA fights and all that stuff. And, that was a big reason why when we got back together, I just didn't train to fight. I stopped fighting, because I was like, well, I'm not going to the UFC. I had no delusion in my mind. I had a pro fight offered to me to turn pro, but I was like, okay, cool. What does that mean? I can say I'm a professional fighter. Okay, that's an ego play, And so for me, I was just like, I'm not going to put, because the training options for that were only in the evenings. There were no midday pro classes or morning pro training classes. It
Yeah.
was all evening. So I'm trying to work on getting my marriage back. Like, zero chance I'm training at night, and taking that time away from her and the kids. So I decided, hey, cool, that was fun. I'm gonna hang it up over here, figure out something else. And it's really cool being in a good marriage and a good relationship. I'll take
Yeah.
that for being able to say I was a professional MMA fighter.
Yeah.
I was like, okay,
Yeah.
cool. You know,
I only fight on the weekends that my ex-wife has the kids, but I made it to become a professional MMA fighter, right? Like that's
yeah.
Yeah, that's the whole like missing the forest for the trees thing, you know. And I've heard Jocko talk about this. This is the situation that you and I have found ourselves in a lot where, you know, I don't love waking up early in the morning. I kind of hate it.
I do too. I
Yeah.
hate it.
If I
Me
could
waking up
sleep
this
until
morning
10
at
a.m.,
3.
bro, like I would love to. If my day, if I could stay up until 3 a.m.,
Yep.
shower, go to bed at 4 a.m., sleep until 10 a.m., that's kind of the ideal schedule for me. Well,
Yeah.
that's not realistic in my workplace. It's not
Yeah.
good for my marriage and my family. So if I want to work out, if I want to do those things, then I've got to be the one that makes the adjustment and not try to force everybody else to like, hey, this is
Yeah.
what dad wants to do. So yeah, it means I'm up at 4:30, 4:45 so that I can get my pre-workout mixed up, drink my 16 ounces of water prior to, because I was told by a friend of mine who's a jerk that is what I need to do early in the morning. Shots fired. And so, yeah, do that down the pre workout and then off to the gym to get there for 5 a.m. if I'm going to get my workout in, so that whenever it's time to get the 2 year old up, you know, that dad's the one that's in there waking up Levi and deciding that, hey, we're starting our day with, you know, some snugs while I make eggs and we get that
Yeah.
good morning time. Otherwise, like, I'm not going to, if I adjust my schedule in any other way, my I'm not going to get my workout in. I'm going to be upset about the fact that I'm not, and I'm going to start having these like, you know, micro resentments to my family. Like they're the things that's
Yep.
standing in the way instead of me being the one disciplined to do it.
Yeah.
So
And that's the thing, to go back on you talking about like what can you control is, one of the things I've been saying at the workshops I give is you can, and I talk about this at the muster too, is you can always control your attitude, your work ethic, your integrity, and your discipline.
yeah,
And this is what we've been talking about tonight is controlling your attitude, deciding, hey, you know what? I'm going to do hard things. I'm going to make a commitment. Cool. Well, you made a commitment. Are you maintaining that commitment? That's an integrity thing. Are you maintaining the commitment to yourself and the people around you that you told you're going to do those things to? Or have you committed to do it with other people? And all of a sudden now you're backing out, right? Well, in order for you to maintain the integrity to that commitment, you got to work hard. You actually got to put in the work. And that requires discipline. So just, those four things, if you think about those, tie in. I'm sorry, they tie together what we've been talking about.
yeah. It's just, I blows my mind how many um, simple things like that really create incredible differences in your life just in general. And that is one of
Yeah.
the things I've loved so much about like implementing the extreme ownership principles is because they're not applicable to business and not home. There's so many leadership material or so many leadership books and things like that. We're like, hey, this will work really great in your business. But if you take this leadership by intimidation book and decide that you're going to do that in your house, you're going to end up with a terrible marriage. But
It's unreal that people do that.
yeah, well, I mean, there are entire courses about leading by intimidation that, you know, and they're touted as like these really, you know, this is the way to do it and this is how you become a, you know, instead of being a doormat, you're going to lead with intimidation. Well, that may work in the short term, but you know, just like the bully in the schoolyard, you're going to find out that one, there's going to be somebody bigger or smarter or
Yep.
that cares less about stuff than you do. And
Yeah.
they're going to find a way to ruin all of that for you. But also, like, you can't take that home. And with these principles, you can, because they work in all of these different areas. And
Yep.
one of the big ones is this whole doing hard things, learning to prioritize and execute. All of that stuff kind of culminates in here. In the spiritual sense, we've talked about a lot of different things in the past that kind of relate to the extreme ownership principles and things like that. But primarily when it comes to doing hard things, most of the spiritual disciplines that we're told to have are really, really challenging things to live out. When you talk about loving one another, nope, that's not the easiest of it. But also things like fasting, prayer, being consistent with your Bible study, that kind of stuff. Now, you've talked about on the Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu podcast, we've had some conversations about this. Things like fasting, and fasting in particular. You know, you and Mike Mitchell on an episode were talking about when y'all broke your fast earlier this year. How are the difficult things that we do spiritually similar in preparation for the future as like the difficult things that we do physically?
I think it's very similar, if not the same, because you're making a commitment, right? And you're going through all those same steps. That's one of the things that would frustrate me is when people are like doing a fast for spiritual reasons. Like, okay, if you're doing a fast for health reasons, like I really don't care if it bothers you or not, or if it was hard or, whatever. But when people do spiritual fast and they're at the end of it and they're like, I just can't wait to eat. This was so hard. And I'm like, dude, it's been 3 days. Like, you're gonna be okay,
Yeah.
And people are just they make this huge deal about it. And I'm like, cool, I'm going 4 days now. And they're like, why? I'm like, because why not? Like it bothers me that because it bothers me because they're making it about them.
Yeah.
If you're doing a spiritual fast, it's not about that. It's about you growing closer to the Lord. And when you're making this big old, like, they plan out these big meals and all these things. And it's like, I don't know. For me, and it's just my opinion, man. I'm not dogging on anybody that does that. I want to be very clear. This was not like an insult towards you.
Sure.
This is the way I look at it. You asked me how I look at it. This is how I look at it. It's the same thing. Like, cool, you're going to do a fast to grow closer to the Lord. Make the commitment. Who are you making it to? Yourself and the Lord. Okay. So shut up about everything else. It's like what they say in the Bible when you're fasting, don't brag to people.
Yeah.
Like what's the analogy of the Pharisees? Right?
Yeah, yeah. That he says, you know, when you're fasting, you don't be like the Pharisees who tried to look like they're withered and sick and all of that. You know, don't be like the Pharisees who pray loudly in public and in the synagogues. You know, that they're happy that
Yeah.
they're not like these other people and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah,
Crazy, man. To me, that's the same thing.
yeah, I would
To
agree.
me, to me, and this is me, not anybody else's opinions. You ask me what I think about it. To me, that's what I think about. And I'm like, bro, and that's the other thing is like, bro, like you're addicted to food. You're addicted to food if you can't skip a meal or a day of fasting. Like you don't want to like skip a meal for spiritual reasons. You've got some serious food addictions. Like that's bad. No, I don't know. There's not many people in America that are gonna die if they don't have food for 3 days. Just saying. Putting that
There's
out there.
there's a viral clip of, and I don't remember what it is. It's some show on TLC that shows people that have gotten like incredibly overweight, and there's this little doctor, and this doctor is a freaking hysterical. He's this
So
tiny,
savage.
yeah, he's just this tiny older guy who's an absolute savage. And this lady is talking to him, and she's like, you know, I don't want to eat any of this. He's like, this is good food. She's like, no, I don't like eating any of this. He's like, it's grilled chicken and rice and green beans. She's like, no, I haven't had anything to eat for 2 days. You know, I can't come in here and starve. And he looks at her and he goes, you've eaten the next 4 years worth of food. You're not going to starve and wither away. You're going to be just fine. every time I see that, but I also like it sticks with me because like whenever I'm doing those kinds of things, I'm like, that's the voice that comes up in my head. We're like, oh, I've got to eat. It's like, nope, you've eaten at least the next 2 weeks worth of food. You got
Yeah.
you got plenty. You're gonna be okay. Have a sip of water and suck it up and make it about what it's supposed to be about.
Yeah.
And to your other point, just like, you know, we talked with Jonathan at A. Montgomery about how after you go on a really strict diet, that if you like indulge, that it's actually way worse for you. You know, Jonathan talked about going on that 2 week cruise where he gained like 19 pounds and 11 of it was like actual
Yeah.
fat that he had gained. And then it took him months to be able to take that back off. And part of the reason that you do difficult things, part of the reason you do fasting and those types of things, and you create those disciplines in your life, is because it shows you how much you can actually go without.
Yep.
And if you get right back on the train of indulgence immediately afterwards, then I would say that you haven't learned your lesson, man. And and that would be the same thing, like doing the half marathon or doing the marathon, or if the 10K or the 5K was a challenge for you. If you go back to doing nothing just because you did it, like the people that get on 75 hard and then on day 76, they have a box of donuts and and decide that for the next 3 months that they're not going to have to work out because they worked out twice
They're
for
just going to
70.
counter it for the next
Yeah,
75 days.
yeah,
They're
that's
just going
it,
to be
right?
insane. They're going to reverse the debt.
Yeah, that's it. And it happens a lot, right? That they're like, no, I did it. I accomplished
Yeah.
this thing. That if you're not getting the lessons that make you better in life, then you're actually not doing any of it for the right reasons, because you're not allowing it to prepare you for the things ahead. And that's pretty short sighted,
Yeah.
just personally, within your relationships, and definitely as a leader. So this is like I said, not something that I wanted to do. I felt the peer pressure at the table, that I knew that something was going to happen. And I was cool with the 5K. And when you threw the 10K out there, I was like, screw it. Let's go full send. We're going to go half marathon. And I have been literally kicking myself for it for the last 11 weeks. But now I'm pretty stoked that we did it, and definitely something that I'm happier to have done than to not have had done. I'm going to use all of my being verbs right there in that one sentence. There you go.
That's impressive.
Thank
I
you.
was like, just got an update from Josh, and he's 8 miles in.
Yep.
I haven't been able to watch the videos he sent me, but he sent me a picture. It's a selfie while he's running. He's
He's
got
got
the
the red
Origin
light on.
Raptor hoodie on. He's got his little red lamp, headlamp on, and he's like 8 miles and starting to feel it. I was like recording an episode right now. Cannot watch the videos. Proud of you. Dig deep and keep pushing. Because that's the time, right? That
Yeah.
8 mile
That's
marker,
where
you're like,
it kind of hit all of us. Yeah.
God, bro, another five.
Yeah. Cause you made it past, like, once you get to halfway, you're like, oh, I'm halfway there. And then you get a little bit past halfway and you're like, this is impossible.
Yeah, halfway, I was fired up. 8 miles, 9 miles. I was like, oh, 10 miles. And then, yeah, my buddy Dane, I felt bad, man. His knees were shot. Well, him and Titus were ahead of me. And then I was running and I had to slow down because I was starting to feel it, at my in my body. And so I was slowing down for a little bit. And he goes, "You want a walking partner for a little bit?" I'm like, "Yeah." Like, because I got to that point where I had to walk for a little bit. I was like, "I'm not going to stop, but I'm going to walk until we get to the car and get refueled." And, his knees were just destroyed. Now, like, he could have kept going, but he was just, not training enough, the wear and tear.
Mm-hmm.
But it was cool because Dane was like fired up to be running again. And, he really got into it as well. And Titus did, man. He went for a run yesterday and he's like just all about it right now. So I think it's cool that we did that. I'm thankful that Rob and Cody created that event. I'm thankful for all the people that signed up, for the money that we raised for America's Mighty Warriors. Um, and just for people to be able to come to Echelon Front trainings, for first responders to be able to come to Echelon Front training, which is incredible. But I know we're probably going to wrap it up soon, but do you have any final thoughts or questions for me based off of just anything we've talked about, or any thing from social media, or
So
or wrap?
we've got a nice backlog of stuff for the Q&A, and I want to kind of save it for
Oh,
that. But
perfect. I
yeah,
agree.
the last thing that I would want to know on this, right, is how, as a dad, right, how encouraging was it to see everybody in your family get involved
Bro,
and want to
unreal.
take part in this?
It was so cool. Like, the kids, it was just really cool to see their attitude. My wife, and then all the other guys, his families. So, like, it was just a really good day, man.
And I do
I'm
think that
just bummed that our families, we weren't able to all do it together like we originally thought about, talked. And then my buddy Brandon, I'm like, oh man.
Yeah, I do like it. It definitely would have been fun. I think I had the run that I needed Saturday, especially since I went
Oh,
from that run. I went there, I wrapped it up, went showered, and then went to go preach a funeral of a friend. Like
yeah,
that was, I think that's what I needed was that as far as like just having all that time to process everything. Now, all of that said, I I think that this is also one of those things that like if dad isn't doing it, the rest of the family is not interested.
I agree.
Yeah. So
For most people,
yeah,
I agree.
what I want then for from my end is like, what are your sort of closing thoughts with that in mind of how important the leadership of the father is in showing the people around them like not just the importance of doing hard things but prioritizing others, helping other people out. You know, how do you use something like this in order to set that example for your family and for the people around you?
It's a non-negotiable, Um, you know, parents need to step up and step into those roles at a higher level. Fathers need to understand how important it is for their sons and daughters to be involved and to step into that role at a high level. I've said it a million times, and even Jonathan Montgomery was like, I'll challenge you for the best, parent situation growing up because he knew how awesome my parents were and are. I mean, dude, like the involvement that my dad had with us kids shaped us. It allowed us to do what we did and be who we are. And my mom just as equal. But my mom also knows that if my dad wasn't involved, we wouldn't have been the kids we were. It takes a strong male figure to to push the family, and we need more of that in society. We need more of that, and it's absolutely critical that as parents, men and women, that we step into those roles to push our kids, to push ourselves first, right?
Yeah.
Push ourselves, make the commitment, do the work, have integrity to fulfill what you said you're going to do, be disciplined every day to do what you say you're going to do, and then show your kids through your actions, not your words, but show your kids what to do in life. That's what they're going to learn. So I think where I feel or how I feel about that. I
Yeah.
think it's very, very important. And I know that I need to do a much better job at it.
Yeah. The
My challenge for this next year for me, for sure.
so the to honor those run got over $20,000 raised for veterans and first responders to get leadership training that they need that'll help them in finding, securing new jobs, and becoming better in the ones that they already have. And the extra proceeds were split between America's Mighty Warriors and the Gary Sinise Foundation, which supports veterans and first responders. Super awesome event to get to be a part of, and really well done by Cody and Rob.
And it was cool hearing Titus and Dane talk about they got the email that they had. They now have 4 weeks of access to first aid nutrition. So are you kidding me? Like that alone, and you get a t-shirt, a challenge coin that you can't buy. You can't buy those other
Yeah.
than signing up for the run,
Yep.
you know, and then you get access to first aid nutrition
Yeah.
for 4 weeks. Like,
And 2 weeks, a 2 week free trial of the Semper Strong Gold membership for their training programs is also part
oh,
of that.
cool.
They jumped on
Nice.
board. So, yeah, I'm stoked because I have opened up um, 5 different email addresses to use all of my free weeks for First in Nutrition. So I've got 5 free months of First in Nutrition for all the things that I've been a part of. And
You're
when
such a turd.
and when Lucas Blinkard gets on to First in Nutrition, he's gonna look nothing like me. So watch out for him, Jonathan and Ann. When
Oh,
when Larry Babin shows up in the
Larry Babin. Awesome. Well, hey, speaking of training, December 3rd, next week, when you're listening to this, next Tuesday in the Dallas Fort Worth area, there's still time for you to sign up. The The link to sign up is going to be in the show notes. I
Yep.
will be doing a full day Echelon Front leadership training. It is open to individual ticket sales, so you can come by yourself. You can bring a few people from work. You can bring a large group from work. And our it is going to be TCOL certified, so our police officers in Texas will get training credits for coming to that training. So again, go to the show notes. Love to see you guys there. It's going to be awesome. Full day of Echelon Front leadership training that I conduct weekly all around the United States and occasionally around the world. So
Yeah.
thankful that we're going to be able to do that again. I just want to thank all of you guys for the support that you guys give us by listening, sharing, subscribing, commenting. Hey, if you're not subscribed on YouTube, make sure you do that so you can be notified when the YouTube exclusive episodes come out. We appreciate you guys spreading the word. It's been pretty incredible. If you want to follow us on social media, I am at JP Dinnell. Lucas is at Lucas Pinckard. That's at LucaspincKard. Make sure you're also following Echelon Front on social media. They are at Echelon Front. Our website is echelonfront.com. You can click on events to see what events that we have coming up. Also, check out the store to grab some of the merch. I look forward to seeing you guys at a future event and being able to work with your company or having you guys come out or grab any of our amazing instructors to come work with you. Also, check out Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu _USA. That's a ministry I'm a part of called Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu. Stephen, Isaac, myself, and Josh started that. We have a podcast. Episodes come out every Tuesday. We do live events about every 4 to 6 weeks. There's also a live discipleship program that Isaac has been taking lead on, and I believe that the last one of the year is going to be Wednesday, December 11th, and so that's going to be awesome. That's going to be at Double Five in Highlands Village. But go to our Instagram page. You can get all the information there. Also check out Little Cattle Co. It's a Texas beef company I'm a partner with.
Get that
The
beef.
website is littlecattle.co, or a custom beef company that allows you to order exactly what you want anytime. We're also able to deliver anywhere in the lower 48 states. We have a ground beef subscription plan. We have different beef tallow products, which include a body butter, tallow cream, lip balm. We also have some awesome tasting beef sticks. If you want to be a wholesaler for the beef sticks and or the beef tallow products, send us an email to Amanda at Little Cattle Co. I'm sorry, Amanda at littlecattle.co. Also, I mean, the last couple 2 weeks has been crazy. The amount of orders that we sent out for companies that's what they're sending for their holiday gifts. They're sending boxes of Texas beef. So they're smart. You should do the same thing. Anyways, I'm also partner of a printing company called On the Path Printing. Check us out on Instagram. Send us a message on Instagram. We'd love to work with you at On the Path Printing, and Josh and I will get back to you and let you know what we can do. Our man David has been helping us out, and it's pretty freaking cool to see everything up and running and printing shirts and getting ready to fulfill some orders very soon. So also, if you're into awesome, beautiful, sexy weapons and awesome training courses, you should check out Bruiser Arms. It's a company that Leif, Jocko, and I have, and it's called Bruiser Arms. On Instagram, we are at Bruiser Arms. Send us a message about any of the custom gear packages we offer and the training classes that we can offer to you. We can provide custom training classes. Also want to thank Origin and Jocko Fuel, all the support they've given. They're incredible company. The culture, the products, everything they have is absolutely incredible. I look up to Pete and Amanda and everything that they've done, and obviously Brian and Dedeco and Jocko and Joey, and just it's incredible to have seen that company continue to grow. My man Dennis over there at Origin just taking the reins and making things happen over there. He's another incredible inspirational story of just going out there and getting what he wants in life. So if you want to check out what they have going on, if you want the absolute best jujitsu gear, the best jeans, the best just pants, American, 100% American made, all of it. 100% American made hunt line. Go to originusa.com. You can also go to jockofuel.com to get your supplements, clean energy drinks. As we close it out, I mean, I think the biggest thing that I'd like for all of you to think about and remember is you can always control your attitude, your work ethic, your integrity, and your discipline. And if you decide you want to go do something, make the commitment and fulfill your word. And I hope this episode has been a reminder to go out there, do the work that's needed, put in the effort, and to never settle. This has been the JP Dinnell podcast, episode 62.